being done by Dr. José Cordeiro, who is a fellow of the World Academy of Art and Science, also director of the Millennium Project and Humanity Plus, founding faculty at Singularity University in NASA, Silicon Valley, founder of Sociedad Mundial del Futuro Venezuela, co-founder of the Ibero-American Transhumanist Association, former director of the Club of Rome, the World Transhumanist Association, and the Extropy Institute, also invited faculty at the Institute of Developing Economies in Tokyo, Japan, and the Moscow Institute of Physics and Technology in Russia. Dr. José Cordeiro has studied engineering at MIT in Cambridge, economics at Georgetown University, and management at INSEAD in Fontainebleau, France, and science at Universidad Simón Bolívar in Caracas, Venezuela. He has published more than 10 books in 5 languages and appeared in programs with CNN, Discovery Channel, and the History Channel, among many other international media interviews. Without further ado, I would like to introduce our keynote on the future of business management and the millennials, the 15 global challenges by Dr. José Cordeiro.
Good morning to everybody. Assalamu alaikum. I have been coming to Pakistan for the last 30 years. So it is a pleasure to be back here and to see how the country has been changing, how it has been evolving. I work with many futuristic groups, like the Millennium Project, that began as the futuristic part of the United Nations, even though now it is an independent NGO, and we look at the trends of what is going to happen in the world in the next few decades. But let me begin talking about my experiences here in Pakistan, because I like the future, but I also like history. And Pakistan is one of the cradles of human civilization, the Indus Valley civilization. I visited 30 years ago Mohenjo-Daro, and then obviously the incredible civilization of Taxila, including obviously what we see today, technology combining the past and the future, and the fantastic history that we have here in the Punjab, cities like Lahore, obviously Islamabad, and here Karachi. So this is a country with a great history, with so many cultures, so many things to learn about. Every time I come back to Pakistan, I learn new things. And therefore, this must be the base for thinking about the future as well, because a country with great history has to have a great future, and I truly hope the best for Pakistan. When we talk about the Millennium Project, we look into long-term trends, and we have nodes, group of experts around the planet, including here in Pakistan. Actually, we have a group of people working with us in Islamabad as one of the nodes of the Millennium Project, and we look at what is happening also in Pakistan in the long term. We, for the last 20 years, have been working on what we call the global challenges. And in 1996, we identified 15 global challenges. These 15 global challenges were the basis for the selection of the Millennium Development Goals by the United Nations in 2000, and more recently, in 2015, the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. But they are all related to these 15 global challenges that I will be talking about later. Also, we publish every year a book about current trends in the future, and also region by region around the planet. And we have compiled a book about futures research methodologies, about 40 chapters on different ways to think about the future. And we keep a global futures intelligence system with all the forecasts for humanity in the next few decades. Additionally, we just published our latest book, which is The State of the Future, version 19.0, and I have a copy for you here at the Management Association of Pakistan, where we do a review of the 15 global challenges. We present the State of the Future Index, which are the trends for the planet in the next 10 years. And we have a special chapter about future terrorism and deterrence that we work with NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, because as you know, terrorism is an increasingly important issue in the planet today. And also, we worked about 3 scenarios for the year 2050 on work and technology, which are the possibilities for planet Earth in terms of work and technology. This is the study about terrorism that we did with NATO, and what we see happening in terrorism in the next 10 to 20 years in the future. Also, I'm very happy to announce that the CEO of the Millennium Project will be here in Pakistan on October 21st in Islamabad, and he will be presenting what the next 20 years, the state of the future of Pakistan. And the book I mentioned, The State of the Future, will be officially presented in the capital of Pakistan on the 21st of October at the Marriott Hotel as well. So if some of you are in Islamabad, or tell your friends to go, this is a public activity to talk about the future of Pakistan according to the Millennium Project and the trends happening today. I also coordinated studies for different parts of the world, like one about Latin America. I was originally born in Latin America, so I have a special attachment to Latin America. And we devised 4 scenarios for the year 2030. And then we presented this in many important gatherings, like the World Economic Forum, Davos, Switzerland. And there I had the pleasure to meet very important people like Nobel laureate Mario Vargas Llosa, who got the 2010 Nobel Prize in Literature. And I was talking to him about the advances in artificial intelligence. And I told him that in 20 years, artificial intelligence will win the Nobel Prizes. And he was really upset, but I told him, don't worry too much, because the first Nobel Prize that artificial intelligence will win is the easiest one, literature. But this is really happening. Artificial intelligence is advancing very fast. And I also had the pleasure to do 2 TV programs with Donald Trump for CNN in Spanish and in English, talking about what will happen in the next 10, 20 years in the future. We look at the evolution of the planet for the last few centuries. And if you look at this chart, this is the demographic changes in population from the year 1800 and the forecast to the year 250. You can see that population grew very fast during the 20th century, but now it is actually stabilizing. In fact, China, today, the most populous country in the planet, has about 1.4 billion people. It will reach 1.5 billion people, and then the population of China is going to go down by the year 2060 by 200 million people. The population of China will drop from 1.5 to 1.3 billion people. This is like losing one whole Pakistan in 30 years in China. We had never seen this in the history of the planet. The population of the country is going down. Obviously, the case of China is very peculiar because they have the one-child policy. And so every child in China has single parents who are also single children themselves. We are going to see an incredible contraction in the human population of some countries like China, Japan, Russia, and most of Europe. Western Europe is already losing people as well. And I lived 3 years in Japan, and the population of Japan has been declining for the last decade. If this continues, in 200 years, there will be no Japanese people. So the problem of the planet is not overpopulation. The problem of the planet is underpopulation in the future. So we have to think about these trends. Even for countries that are still growing demographically, like Pakistan, Pakistan will also soon stabilize, and then the population might go into decline, like in other countries. We need to think about these issues in the future. Look at this scale. This is a linear scale for the population. Now I will show you what is happening in economic terms, in terms of gross domestic product, which has been growing exponentially. This is not a linear scale, it is a logarithmic scale in the vertical axis, which indicates an exponential growth of the economy. The situation of humans until the 18th century, 19th century, was about $1,000 per person per year. And then the Industrial Revolution began, and the first countries that industrialized grew very fast. And right now, there are some countries that are getting close to $100,000 per person per year, which is incredible. But what is even more beautiful is that the poorer countries are catching up very fast. And as you know, China has been growing incredibly fast, then India, Pakistan. I'm very convinced that Pakistan will be growing very fast during the next decade. And also African countries. We live in incredible times where the poorer countries are growing the fastest. In fact, since the United Kingdom began with the Industrial Revolution, and it was the first country in human history that doubled its income per capita. During 1780 to 1838, this means it took 58 years for the United Kingdom to be the first country in human history that doubled its income per capita. But new countries are learning how to do this faster and faster and faster. Today, the world record in economic development is China. China, every 7, 8, 9 years, doubles its income per capita. And actually, I'm looking forward to seeing Pakistan beating that record. Maybe in 10 years, 20 years, Pakistan could be also doubling its income per capita in only 6 years or 7 years. We really are learning from other countries. There is a learning curve, and countries are growing faster and faster. And this is really beautiful. Today, there are no excuses anymore to be poor. No excuses to be poor nations, to be developing countries, because today we know what works and we know what doesn't work. Another example, Japan. Japan actually is a very small country, very, very small. Pakistan is 2.5 times bigger than Japan. And Japan has nothing. Japan has no natural resources. Japan only has people and earthquakes and tsunamis. But these people are educated today, and they use science and technology. And that is why the Japanese say that Japan is a poor country, but with rich people. While Pakistan and some other countries are actually big, rich countries, but with poor people. Why? Because we are not using education and science and technology to develop yet. But we are learning, again, we are learning. And I am very optimistic about the future of humanity because of this learning process. Until the 18th century, there was no economic growth in the planet, basically. It was a stagnant condition, no growth. But then, at the end of the 18th century, the Industrial Revolution began. And then there was almost 100% GDP growth in the 19th century. And in the 20th century, almost 400%. In this 21st century, we are going to see more, much more. We are living in incredible times. I like to say that in the next 2 decades, we are going to see more technological change than in the last 2 millennia. So get ready, because we are living truly incredible times of economic development. However, some groups will oppose technological advance. I think that you know the Amish. The Amish are very famous. They live all over the Americas. The most famous are in Pennsylvania. And they are a group that left Europe who didn't want any technology. So they live like they were living in the 18th century, and they don't want to change. Obviously, this is their right, this is their privilege if they want to, but they cannot stop the rest of the planet from moving ahead. And what was special about the 18th century? Nothing. There was nothing, as we saw. Until the 18th century, the human condition was poverty, hunger, disease, early death. The average life expectancy in the 18th century was only 30 years. Most of you would be dead 2 centuries ago. I would be dead almost 2 times over. We were caught into the Malthusian trap. But again, thanks to science and technology, the world advanced. But I remind you, there will be people against technology, like the Amish. Or even in the cradle of the Industrial Revolution, we had the Luddites. The Luddites were people who destroyed the machines. They destroyed the textile equipment because they said that machines would take away their jobs. Fortunately, the Luddites did not win. And because of that, we live today in a much better world. And I'm saying this again because there will be Luddites, Neo-Luddites, who will destroy the machines, who will destroy the technology because they say that they will lose their jobs, even though it is the opposite what happens. Technology makes us more human. Technology gives us more choices and possibilities. But I repeat, be aware, there will be Amish, there will be Luddites, there will be probably people who will oppose advancements like 5,000 years ago. We don't know, but I'm pretty sure there were people who did not want wheels. The wheels were invented 5,000 years ago, and probably some groups did not want wheels. Anyway, in the year 2009, a new university was created in Silicon Valley, and I am one of the founding faculty of Singularity University, where we teach all these exponential technologies that will improve the human condition. Our objective is to improve the human condition thanks to technology, even for the Amish and the Luddites who don't want it. The idea of the singularity has been becoming more popular. And for example, Time magazine talked about the year 2045, which is the late year when we expect the singularity to happen. The singularity is defined as the time when artificial intelligence reaches human intelligence level. And that will happen probably between 2029 and 2045. And one of the incredible consequences of the singularity, as you can read the subtitle, 2045, the year man becomes immortal. And for the ladies here, you will be immortal too, all of us. We'll have the technology at that time to be able to rejuvenate people. Ray Kurzweil, who is an engineer also from my alma mater, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, has been popularizing this idea of the technological singularity and how, because of the increasing power of computers, we will reach artificial intelligence close to human levels, I repeat, between 2029 and 2045. That book actually is recommended by Bill Gates as the best book about the future. However, Bill Gates is wrong. This is the best book about the future. But Bill Gates has not read it yet, Technologies are changing exponentially, faster, smaller things, cheaper things, and better things. But we cannot understand exponential change because we think linearly. We grew up in a linear world and we think linearly. But technology is changing exponentially, and there is a big difference between linear and exponential change. For example, if I walk 30 linear steps, each step of 1 meter, after 30 steps I have walked 30 meters. But if I walk exponentially and I double, after 30 doublings, I have walked over 1 billion meters and gone around planet Earth 26 times. However, we do not understand this because we think linearly. But technology changes exponentially, so get ready for this world of exponential change. In fact, we have more and more knowledge. Knowledge is growing exponentially too. If we could measure the amount of knowledge that humans have generated throughout history, maybe 500,000 years ago, we had just 1 book of knowledge. Then 5,000 years ago, when written languages were invented, maybe 10 books of knowledge. 500 years ago, with the printing machine, maybe 100 books of knowledge. 50 years ago, with computers, 1,000 books of knowledge. Then with internet, hundreds of thousands of books of knowledge. But now we have artificial intelligence arriving, and we are going to create millions and millions of books of knowledge. We have not seen anything yet. This is like a technological tsunami that will help us improve human condition, including in our lifespans. we are living longer and better lives. 2,000 years ago, in the year 1 AD, life expectancy was about 25 years. In the year 1800, we got close to 50 years. In the year 2000, we got close to 70 years. By the year 2040, we might be living 100 years, and then we will be living longer and longer. And there will be more and more education, and we will be creating more and more knowledge. Knowledge is exploding, and we are creating more and sharing more. And this is what happens with technology. And there are two types of people: digital immigrants and digital natives. The children today, they are digital natives. They are born in a world of technology. In fact, I like to define technology as whatever is invented after you are born. The things that existed before you were born are not technology to you. And that is why there is a big difference between older generations and newer generations. And that is the idea of the millennials. The millennials are the younger people that were born probably after 1980, and it's the largest generation today in human history. And these millennials, they are technologically minded. They were born with technology. What is happening here in Pakistan? If you look at the demographic pyramids, Pakistan has not only been growing very much, but also it is becoming older. The population of the whole planet, and Pakistan included, is becoming older and older. But still, you can see the millennials are the biggest group in Pakistan, like in most countries. And there are different visions about what the millennials are and what they are not, especially compared with baby boomers. Some of you, like me, are probably baby boomers, and we are very different from the millennials, who are digital natives that use technology for almost everything. So the last three generations, the baby boomers, Generation X, and the millennials, or Generation Y, are very different in the way we think, the way we work, the way we react. But millennials are very socially connected. Millennials are the first generation who are truly globally minded. And this is very important. As opposed to us that grew in our local communities, millennials have no frontiers. They have no limits. They think globally. And this is very important for the world of the future, because millennials have a different mentality. They think globally and they think technologically. So we will be changing the view of the world. This is the traditional European-centric view of the world, with Europe in the center of the world. This map is so popular in most of the planet that even some cows have that map on them. But we have to change our mentality to move from the European-centric view into the Chinese version of the world. As you probably know, China means Chung Kuo, which means the Middle Kingdom. The name of China in Chinese is the empire of the center of the world. And they look China in the center of the world. And China is not any country. China is the next great power, like it was before. The next great power. And China now is beginning a globalization project that you know, One Belt, One Road. And Pakistan is one of the key leading strategic partners of China. Actually, this is something that Pakistan has to use to its advantages. Pakistan is at the crossroads of civilizations, and China has especially selected Pakistan for this transformation of the whole planet. The new Silk Road will be going through Pakistan. Obviously, your view of the world depends on where you are. If you live in Australia, you will be looking at the world upside down. Or if you live in Dubai, you will be looking at the world islands. My objective is that you change your view of the world, that you look at the world with a new face, and that you look at the world with a new behind. And we will move from our world beyond our world. We will soon go onto Mars. In 10 years, we will begin the colonization of Mars. Right now, there are almost 10 international missions, public and private, to go and colonize Mars. We will be soon landing on Mars. And we will terraform Mars. We will make Mars more of a habitable environment. And we will create an interplanetary internet. Actually, NASA is already working on an interplanetary network. And we already have internet connection with the International Space Station, for example. They have internet up there in space. We will have it through all the solar system. And we will have Google Space. In fact, you probably know we have Google Earth. Now we have Google Moon. We have Google Mars. And we have Google Sky. We will be able to map the whole universe with these technologies. NASA has a plan for the next decades to find life in outer space. In fact, it is possible that in the next 20 to 30 years, we will find life outside planet Earth. It might not be intelligent. It might be bacterial life. But the fact that we find bacteria in other planets will be incredible. Also, it is already incredible that we have other planets. 20 years ago, we did not know that there were planets outside the solar system. We expected that there should be planets because there are other stars that should have planets. But it was not discovered really until 2 decades ago. And in the last 2 decades, we have been discovering thousands and thousands of exoplanets. And some of those planets might have life, intelligent life, or at least bacterial, stupid life, if you want. So we might soon find the Martians. And we don't know how they will look like. They might be very funny, like in WALL-E. Probably, actually, they will be fat because there will be less gravity in outer space. In fact, we can see how these space-faring organisms might be fat. You can even discover them on Earth, some of these fat organisms. So we don't know how they will be like, but it is part also of evolution. But how will we evolve in space? We have to do it carefully. We don't want to evolve like that. We might evolve into different life forms. In any event, let me tell you about the 15 global challenges that were started 20 years ago by the Millennium Project at the United Nations at the time. All of these challenges are interlinked, each one of them. For example, sustainable development, clean water, population, and all the different challenges. Democracy is a major global challenge. Decision-making, information and communication technologies, market economies, diseases, what is going to happen with health in the future, education, this is a top priority for the planet as well. Different considerations in science, technology, and different factors that you can all read in the State of the Future. So let me move forward because these 15 global challenges by the Millennium Project were used to select the 8 Millennium Development Goals. And the first one, which is very important, was eradicate extreme poverty and hunger. This goal, number 1 in the year 2000, was incredible because for the first time at the turn of the millennium, we could see that it could be possible to eliminate poverty for the first time in human history. This has been retaken now in 2015 with the Sustainable Development Goals. And if you look at the goal, number 1 is no poverty. The World Bank actually is working with that mandate, no poverty by the year 2030. And this is achievable for the first time. Never before until now, thanks to technologies, we could actually believe that we could stop poverty in the planet. We developed the State of the Future Index to look at the trends. to see what is happening in the last 20 years and what could happen in the next 10 years. So we basically combine 30 top variables, the 30 most important numbers, and then quantify them from the past into the future to develop the State of the Future Index. In some variables, we are winning, and in some variables, sadly, we are losing. Some of the good variables, for example, we are living longer, healthier lives, we are beating poverty, we are wealthier, more educated, we have cleaner water, energy efficiency, child mortality is going down, and incredible number of internet users throughout the planet. So in most of the factors that we measure of these variables, we are living in a better time. But we also have problems, and they are very serious problems. None of these problems is small. We have environmental problems, we have social unrest, we have terrorism, we have corruption, and we have organized crime. So these are serious challenges, but overall, the human condition is improving, and we do not live anymore in the Malthusian trap until the 18th century. In the State of the Future, we cover all of those issues, and I repeat, I invite you all to come to Islamabad this coming Saturday to see the presentation of the book. It will be webcast as well from the capital. And we will present for the first time the State of the Future Index for Pakistan. What are the current trends in Pakistan compared to the world, and which are the weak points and the strong points about the future of Pakistan? We also cover 3 scenarios about the year 2050 that I mentioned. And right now, we are performing national workshops. We did one, our colleagues in Islamabad did one with the government, a workshop about 3 months ago to see possibilities for Pakistan in terms of work and technology for the year 2050. We consider all the new technologies, actually even better, the next technologies, and how they are merging. There is a synergy between all these technologies that is changing everything. Artificial intelligence with robotics, synthetic biology, computational science. All of these things are combining, they are fusing, and they are accelerating economic growth, and they are accelerating change. We also talk about 3 different forms of artificial intelligence. Most people, when they talk about artificial intelligence, they only consider artificial narrow intelligence. But there are 2 higher levels of artificial intelligence. Artificial general intelligence, which is equivalent to human intelligence in a way, to a general human. And then there is artificial superintelligence, which will be an intelligence superior to human intelligence. And this is what is scary, because it will be more intelligent than we are. So these are the 3 scenarios that we developed for the year 2050. Number 1, it is complicated, a mixed bag, where some good things happen and some bad things happen. Number 2, political and economic turmoil. So future despair, bad things happening. And number 3, if humans were free, the self-actualization economy. How are we going to improve ourselves in the economy of the future? We develop all these scenarios with basic key points and changes decade by decade. And we look into the year 2050 and how the workforce will radically change. In the year 2000, there were about 3 million people working in the planet. By the year 2050, we are going to have a population of close to 9 billion people and 6 million workers, because people will be older and there will be a bigger workforce by the year 2050. So how those 6 billion workers will be distributed? According to each scenario, there are different situations. Scenario number 1, which is the mixed scenario, or business as usual in general, there will be 2 billion employed people, 2 billion self-employed people, 1 billion unemployed, and 1 billion in the informal economy. This is the trends as they are today, more or less. Second scenario, the bad one, political turmoil. We will move into more unemployment and more informal economy. And number 3, which is relatively the best scenario, but also it has ups and downs, is that there will be a lot of self-employed people. You will create your own work. You will self-actualize yourself with the things you want to do. So it is a different world from the one we know today. We go decade by decade explaining all these changes. Scenario number 1, it is complicated. Scenario number 2, political and economic turmoil. And scenario number 3, if humans were free. We developed all these ideas, which were the result of a survey, international survey of hundreds of people around the planet. And one of the things that is happening in this scenario is that, again, we will have artificial intelligence higher than human intelligence. It will be different, but it will be more powerful than human intelligence. Like when we talk about flying, birds fly and airplanes fly, but they fly very differently. The same with artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence will be intelligent, but it will be very different from human intelligence. For all of these developments, we need a lot of STEM education. As you know, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. The more our children are prepared for the future, the better we can handle the outcomes in the future. In the second scenario, which is the horrible one, the terrible scenario, governments lose control, populations go into disarrays, and we will have a lot of crises, migratory crisis throughout the planet. The third scenario, if humans were free, what would happen if we use this technology to live better, like we have been doing since the Industrial Revolution? If we use the technology to create a better world. Actually, this idea was first mentioned by Abraham Maslow. Abraham Maslow, he talked about the different needs of humans. At the very bottom are the most basic needs, survival. But once we survive, we want to do more things, elevated things, until we get into the self-actualization, self-realization of individuals. And we believe this is going to happen because technology will be handling most of the dirty work, more of the base work. And humans will use our brains, our capabilities to create better things, more interesting things. In fact, we might have artificial intelligence and avatars that will be doing our work for us while we sleep. Also, we will augment the intelligence of people. Imagine if we could have not just one Steve Jobs and Bill Gates, but we could have millions of them. In fact, we believe we will enhance the intelligence of humans very soon. And we will also enhance humans themselves. Last year, for the first time, there was the Cyber Olympic Games, Cybathlon, in Switzerland, where humans who were without legs, without arms, without parts of the brain, were enhanced with technology. Humans who were disabled became super-abled. This is what will happen in the future. We will enhance our capabilities. We will move from disabled into super-abled humans. But not only humans, also we will have machines. Japan announced the first Olympic Games for robots, only robots in 2020. They will still have the traditional human Olympics, but that's kind of boring, old. We will have the first robot Olympic Games in human history in Tokyo. And artificial intelligence will become artificial superintelligence, which will be higher than human intelligence. And the only way to survive is to join it. If you cannot beat your enemy, join it. And this is what we think we will do. We will enhance our intelligence. We will become more intelligent with artificial intelligence. The problem is not artificial intelligence. The problem is human stupidity. And human stupidity, unfortunately, is very natural. We are naturally stupid. So, fortunately, we will enhance ourselves and we will become more intelligent. So we have to pass from the old world, which was linear and separate and local, into a new world that is going to be exponential and is going to be global, where everything interconnected. All the technologies are creating synergies between also humans and technology. How can we put together all these technologies? You might think about a Rubik's Cube and try to move all the different pieces, all the different technologies, or you might think about a lathe that you are creating, mingling all the technologies. In any event, we are connecting more and more technologies, and we are connecting technologies to humans also more and more. Again, your artificial intelligence or avatar might be learning while you are sleeping, and then when you wake up, you will have additional knowledge. Today, we talk about the traditional human brain that had 3 parts. This was discovered in 1973, the 3 parts of the brain. The first part, which is called the reptilian primitive brain. Then the limbic brain, where we have emotions, and then the neocortex, where we have intelligence. Today, we talk about creating an exocortex, a cortex outside the brain that will make us more intelligent, that will give us super intelligence. Actually, Google says that Google wants to be the 3rd half of your brain. That's very deep. The 3rd half of your brain. And then it will be the 4th half of your brain, and the 5th half of your brain, and the 6th half of your brain. And soon you will have more brain outside than inside. One of the most famous entrepreneurs, Elon Musk, actually created a new company called Neuralink, in order to connect your brain to internet. He expects to have brain-computer interfaces in 10 years, maximum 20 years. We will link our brains to the... So actually, our little human brain will be enhanced, will be augmented by artificial intelligence, which again is not artificial, it is part of what we create. And this will transform the world through these brain, internet, computer interfaces. But everything has little problems, as you know. Everything has yin and yang, as the Chinese say. And this is so complex that the yin-yang inside has little yin-yang. And the little yin-yang has even more little yin-yang. So we have to be very worried about the consequences of this, because there is always a dark side of the force. And we have to be worried about the dark side of the force. This is the famous picture of the world at night, done by NASA. It's actually a compilation of pictures because the whole planet is not dark at one time. But you can see how the world looks at night and which parts are illuminated and which parts are not illuminated. And the Chinese, that have fantastic phrases for everything, the Chinese say, let's light up the world. It is better not to blame darkness. It is better not to blame darkness, but to light up a candle. So I'm not here to blame darkness, I'm here to light up candles, because we live in a world of incredible opportunities, where we can illuminate the planet, we can create more technology, we will have more knowledge. But we have to do this carefully, because look actually about Korea. I'm going to be next month in Korea, but there are 2 Koreas. There is South Korea and there is North Korea. As you probably know, South Korea has the most advanced internet in the world today. The fastest, cheapest, best internet in the world, South Korea. And North Korea is the last planet on Earth still without internet. And they are the same Koreans. But South Korea is the Korea of the future, and North Korea is the Korea of the past. Actually, Korea is a very interesting country, which was a colony of Japan, before was also invaded by China. Korea was a very poor country. Korea was much poorer than Pakistan, much poorer than Pakistan. Until relatively recently, until half a century ago, still South Korea was poorer, and North Korea too. But look at the difference between South Korea and North Korea. And today, South Korea is many times richer than Pakistan, even though it was poorer than Pakistan half a century ago. So what happened? And why it happened only in South Korea? So where does Pakistan want to go? Do you want to go to North Korea? You want to go to South Korea? Do we want to create a different system? We really have to think about the future. And futurists talk about 4 ways to think about the future. The worst possible way is to be passive, like an ostrich. You don't want to do anything. You suffer the future. You hide your head. You don't want to care about the future. Horrible, horrible situation. So I hope that you are not ostriches here. Second attitude, a little bit less bad, still bad, but not so bad, is to be reactive. Like a firefighter, you only come out when you have an emergency. It is bad, but not so bad. It is much better to be proactive, when you prepare yourself for the changes. In fact, when you buy insurance, you try to prepare for possible things happening, good and bad ones, especially. But the best possible attitude is to be proactive, because we can create the future. We can analyze scenarios, good scenarios, and how to reach them, and we can think about bad scenarios and how to avoid them. So we have the capacity to create the future, to build a better future. So I hope that we don't have ostriches here, because ostriches are not from Pakistan. But if we have ostriches, they should be technological ostriches, okay, to fly and see what is going to happen in the next few decades. We need to meditate about the future. I like to meditate. There are so many wonderful ways to meditate, from Buddhist meditation to Sufi meditation, many, many times to think about the future, to consider different possibilities, different alternatives. And I basically want to finish with this fantastic Chinese word. I lived 3 years in Japan, and I learned Chinese characters. And this is the Chinese word used in Japanese, in Korean, and in Vietnamese, when they use Chinese characters, that means crisis. Crisis in Chinese has 2 characters. The first character is danger, danger, but the second character is opportunity. So I hope that you learn this word. It is very complicated to draw, and before I used to draw it upside down. Sometimes I drew it sideways. Now I can write it properly. I took classes of Chinese calligraphy. I recommend that to you because it's a beautiful art. And you need to learn Chinese. Remember, the One Belt, One Road is a world program, and Pakistan is a key partner. Okay, so you learn at least this world crisis. So there will be a lot of problems in the future, but there are more opportunities. So get ready for the future. We are going to see more changes in the next 20 years than in the last 2,000 years. These are truly magical times. This is the best time to be alive, to change the world, to improve the world. So thank you very much. And you can see information from the Millennium Project, the Global Futures Intelligence System, the State of the Future. And if you are in Islamabad on October 21st, you will see about the future of Pakistan as well, the State of the Future Index and what are the trends in Pakistan. Shukriya. So I think we have time for questions and answers. I'm very happy to answer anything that I can.
Last time, I think, I may be wrong, the 15 Millennium Goals did include environment. I didn't see it there. The areas conspicuous by their absence was pollution, wars, ethics, sociology, freedom, privacy, big brother, dystopia, happiness, depression. Happiness, depression may come under health. Second, I didn't see a nexus between challenges and the parameters that you used in developing the 4 scenarios. So I didn't see the wars over there. Thirdly, the STEM knowledge will no longer be relevant if we have superior intelligence around.
Okay, many points, excellent ideas altogether. Actually, the number one global challenge, if we can get back to the screen, to the PowerPoint, it has to do with sustainable development and with the environment. And we try to show, if you look at all the connections, that all of these challenges are interconnected. It is not just the environment, it is not just water, it is not just democracy, they are all interlinked. And it is like in a human body, we have different systems. We have the circulatory system, we have the respiratory system, we have the nervous system, and you cannot say that one is more important than the other. Like, is more important your heart or your brain? They are all important. We need them all. So we consider all of these issues. Again, the definitions have changed, but when we did this with the Millennium Project, we interviewed about 3,000 experts from around the planet. We did an international Delphi survey, an expert survey around the planet to select all these global challenges. We gave that back to the United Nations, and they chose basically the 8 Millennium Development Goals in the year 2000. And again, this changed in the year 2015, and we have now the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. The priorities change, the conditions change, and if we have new goals for the year 2030, I hope, again, there will be no poverty in the year 2030, and therefore, the challenges will be others, because the situation of the planet has changed. So if we have no poor, as we expect, by the year 2030, then there will be other challenges, that the no longer poor people have a fantastic environment and have better education and things like that. So continuously, all these challenges, all these goals have to be reviewed. And that is also why in the Millennium Project, we look into the past, the last 20 years, and into the future, the next 10 years. And we try to have them all linked, because they are all important, and there are many synergies and connections among all of those. I hope I have more or less answered your fantastic question.
Moin Fuda, past president of the MAP. Firstly, I'd like to compliment President Asif and his team for a wonderful event. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, thank you for coming to Pakistan for the last 3 decades. You have definitely beaten the travel advisories. Thank you. My question to you, sir, is about North Korea. North Korea is shaking the world, and the gold price every time moves with North Korea's move. So why do you say about North Korea that it's past?
Actually, talking about North Korea, let me tell you, I have visited North Korea. I was in 2014 in North Korea, and it really is as dark as it looks in the map. This is true. In Pyongyang, actually, they ration all the electricity, which is also only from coal, basically. They don't have even natural gas in North Korea. So it is a very dark country with no electricity, and also that is why they have no internet, because they have no electricity. So how can they have internet when electricity comes and goes continuously? North Korea, actually, I discovered something very sadly, is the only country basically that far up north where there is malaria and I actually got malaria in 2014 in North Korea. This was horrible to get malaria, and their hospitals are horrible as well. Then I luckily got treated in South Korea. Obviously, I had to go through China because South Korea and North Korea are at a state of war. So there is no open border between the two. I had to go through Beijing. And then when I got to Seoul, I got my treatment for malaria that I got in North Korea. Yeah, because they are a desperate regime. It really is a sad situation. They have nuclear weapons, and it is a crazy, crazy government. Kim Jong-un, the dictator of North Korea, who has only 34 years, and if you have seen his pictures, he's incredibly fat at age 34 in a country where people are malnourished, where people are suffering hunger. We have this dictator who is incredibly fat. I think this is a bad example also for North Korea, in a country where there is no food, that the dictator is so fat. A country that has no medicine, but has nuclear weapons, and is ready to destroy South Korea. It really is a tragedy. This is the tragedy of the world. We have human stupidity. We have a lot of human stupidity today. So we need more intelligence, more intelligence. Good question, difficult answer. And I am also stupid, you know? I need more artificial intelligence.
Asad from Kareem. It's a great lecture. Very insightful, I think, end to end. I think a lot to intake from that. So my question is around AI. So there's a huge amount of work being done in the West. You know, there are armies of smartest people sitting and typing codes and coding AI stuff. There is little contribution from the developing world or from the poorer countries. So my question is around how do you see developing world contributing towards that? Because in the end, if they don't contribute, if they don't take a leap of faith or something, they'll just be the takers. They'll just be impacted positively or negatively with that.
Yes, excellent point. The technologies began in the developed countries. That is why they were called developed. But remember, until the 18th century, most of the world was at about $1,000 per person per capita. We were equally poor throughout the planet. Even rich countries were only twice as rich as poor countries. Now we have huge differences. And obviously you need money to develop technology. That is true. But this is also being globalized very quickly. Baidu from China, actually, they say that they have better artificial intelligence than Google. And for translations, they do. The translation from Chinese into English with Baidu is about 2 times or 3 times better than with Google. And this was developed in China. So now we have more and more countries using all these technologies. But I see 2 incredible developments coming up very soon. One is that we expect to have free internet, free planetary internet in 2 to 3 years. The whole planet will have free internet. There are several companies working on this, like Facebook with drones, Google with balloons. Actually, Google began giving free internet and free telephones in Puerto Rico that was destroyed by a hurricane. So now there is free Google telephones and free Google internet in the island of Puerto Rico in the Caribbean after the Hurricane Maria. Anyway, so companies like Google with balloons, Facebook with drones, and 3 companies working with microsatellites, SpaceX of Elon Musk, Virgin Galactic of Richard Branson, and another company, Outernet, not Internet, Outernet, are working with microsatellites. And they all expect between 2 and 3 years to give free internet to the planet. This will change humanity completely. Everybody will have access to internet in 2 to 3 years for free. So there will be no limits to knowledge. No limits to knowledge. We will have access to all the knowledge created by humans, from Russia to China, Pakistan to Taiwan, for free. You will not be able to say in 5 years, I don't know. Because if you want to know, you will be able to know. Therefore, I think there will be a catching up effect of the poorer nations, because there will be no barriers to go into any industry. The only barriers will be in our minds. So if we get rid of our mental barriers, we can develop anything, because we will have free Wi-Fi in the planet and no limits to knowledge. It's incredible if you really think about that. Free internet in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, in the middle of the South Pole, so that the penguins also have free internet. It really is a different world. It's difficult to visualize, but it is coming, and it is happening fast. And therefore, I think this is the opportunity for the poorer countries to move forward. As I also showed that countries like China has been growing so fast, and now India, Africa, and I am sure Pakistan in 10 years will be growing much faster, because we learn from the previous mistakes, especially in a globalized world. We have still a couple of minutes if there is another question.
I think you didn't answer my question regarding the need for knowledge or whatever. If there is already super intelligence, we are useless.
Again, we are enhancing ourselves. We will use this artificial intelligence for us to become more intelligent. This is not an invasion of Martians. This is not artificial intelligence coming from another planet. We are developing this artificial intelligence for us, with us, to improve humanity. So I don't see this as a problem, as a threat. I see this as an opportunity. But again, remember, some people will not want to use technology. Some people will not want to enhance their intelligence. I have no doubt, sadly, that that will happen. We will have Amish, we will have Malthusians, we will have Neo-Luddites that don't want artificial intelligence. So what can we do? If they want to become stupid, if they want to stay stupid, let them be stupid. That's the only thing we can do. But most of humanity will enhance themselves. We will be more intelligent. Again, these are not Martians. These are not extraterrestrial intelligence. These will be our own intelligences.
So the intelligence will be able to weed out the fake news and manufactured news.
Well, there will always be those problems, of cybersecurity and things like that. But again, I think what is important is that we will be ourselves more intelligent, more ethical, and better human beings as well. So,
Those are not part of any of your goals.
yes, actually, again,
Those are not part of any of the goals.
yes, actually, ethics. If I can show one final point here quickly so that you are satisfied.
Because there is the business. You mentioned it as a business.
No, actually, the 15th global challenge is ethics, and how we are going to have a global ethics. Where is it? Here.
I think the word ethics was a bit.
Here. How can ethical considerations become more routinely incorporated into global decisions? Actually, the last point is ethics and how we can become more ethical, more moral, and improve the human condition. Indeed, we have this as a global challenge. It is not in the development goals, which I think is sad. You are right. Neither in the Millennium Development Goals nor in the Sustainable Development Goals, they talk about ethics. They don't. But in the global challenges, we do, and we have that, the final one, because it is fundamental. Anyway, shukriya.